Hello and welcome to the Remote Work Movement podcast. In this episode, I interview Hans, the COO of Safety Wing, a startup that offers insurances for digital nomads like myself. Hans is a great guy, and in this interview, we spoke a lot about the digital nomad movement and how Safety Wing plans to solve some pain points of this lifestyle. We recorded the interview in Ubud, Bali, so you'll hear some of the noise of the motorbikes on the background. I'm really sorry for that, but I guarantee you the conversation is totally worth it. So, let's start. Introducing Hans Kjellby. Hans, welcome to the podcast, and thank you for taking the time to come here with us. We are now in Ubud. Have you been in Bali before?
I've never been to Bali before, so this is my first time, and wow, it's great here.
It's like your dream place because your company is very focused in digital nomads, and Bali is the center right now in the world of digital nomads. So have you found it interesting? Have you learned something in Bali that you didn't know before?
Yeah, a lot. So I've kind of, or definitely not understood, but at least started to understand how kind of the infrastructure of nomads here work, and it's fairly interesting and not as I expected. It's more chilled out here than what I expected it to be, and also the number of nomads is higher than what I expected it to be. I can see something, of course. I know that in Safety Wing, Indonesia is our second largest country after Thailand, actually.
Wow.
So I know we have a lot of customers here, which makes sense, yeah.
Now that you know, yes, definitely. After Ubud, you go to Canggu, right? And I can warn you already, it's totally different world because Canggu has much more life. Ubud is much more relaxed, as you are seeing. And yeah, it's fun that you are here now. You are actually experiencing all this. Were you a digital nomad before? You had nothing?
I have never been kind of a digital nomad living a life where I travel 3-4 months to various places. I have, though, for the last 2-3 years been traveling more than I have been kind of at home, if I even have a home. And for the last 1.5 years, I've basically, with the exception of the last 3-4 months, I've been basically homeless, like not having a place to live. And last year I spent more time in the US than I did in Europe. So yeah.
You
probably
are kind of a digital nomad
probably a digital nomad,
not official, but you do work a lot. And
I
you are
haven't done kind
place.
of this Southeast Asia or South America, going to lower cost places yet, but that's something I actually plan to do this fall when things are starting to settle in with the business, and then I can kind of start doing it.
Nice. I can tell you one thing. You are the second lawyer in my podcast. And we only have 6 episodes, so that's more than 20%.
That's 25%. Yeah.
And
almost.
You were having a successful career as a lawyer. You were growing in your career. You were having, I think, doing all the normal steps. And suddenly, you decided to go and risk at creating, co-founding Safety Wing in the market that it looks like you were not as comfortable as you are now because you have much more knowledge. Why try? What was the drive to quit a successful career that you were having and risk everything, so to say, in this new startup?
It's a good question, and I think it kind of goes back to before I even started law school. But yeah, as you said, I did law school, and then I started to work in one of those big law firms. Did that for 3-4 years. But kind of when I started to work in one of the big law firms, I always knew that I wanted to do something entrepreneurial later in my life, and I should probably have done it sooner. But also the way I did it was I didn't jump just right from kind of the corporate law firm life to starting a startup. I did one thing in between, and that was I was working for a startup, a kind of a high growth FinTech company in Norway, where I was head of legal and compliance. So I did the legal work there, but I definitely kind of learned how the dynamics of a startup works before I eventually co-founded Safety Wing with Sondre and Sarah, my 2 co-founders. And the idea from Nomads, actually, it's not from me, but my co-founder Sondre, he used to run a freelancer platform before we started Safety Wing called Consus. And in Consus, they wanted to provide their freelancers with benefits. And they were global, like totally distributed, and a lot of them were nomads. And they couldn't kind of find good benefits that were global and the same for everyone, which was kind of a necessity when they wanted to provide their freelancers with benefits. And that's where the idea started. And of course, the idea has evolved a lot from there. It's not the same anymore, but that's where the idea started, at least.
And how did you get involved in everything?
Well, I've been close friends with Sondre, my co-founder, since we were 18. And I had kind of a skill set and a personality type that suited well with this project. Yeah.
You told us before that you had already some drive to go and do something entrepreneurial, although you are in one of the least entrepreneurial careers you could ever have. What was the feelings? What feelings were you having that you felt that you had to do something about it?
Yeah. So it is kind of to be a lawyer is kind of, it's perceived as being not very entrepreneurial. I think it shouldn't be like that, right? I think to kind of know the legal field and know kind of the rules for the, or yeah, to kind of understand that it's a hard skill, and a hard skill is always very nice to have, kind of regardless if it's coding, if it's kind of accounting or finance, if it's legal. It's a hard skill that can be applied to almost anything, right? It shouldn't be like that. Is at least my perception. And also when you go to law school, you learn to learn in kind of, you learn to digest information in a certain way, which also can be applied to anything. So it shouldn't be like that. And why is it like that? I think it's because of high salaries. It's hard to leave almost anywhere in the world, with some exceptions. Lawyers are kind of at the top of the income curve. The other one is that it is very traditional, and you get kind of sucked into that traditional world. So it's hard, and you have to be kind of, I think you have to be to know that you're going to leave fairly early before you get sucked into that way of living.
And how was the transition between that safe job, as you mentioned, with very good salary, and you basically risked a lot, transitioning to a startup, and a very early stage startup, because you basically found it. How was it in terms of safety? Did you feel that you were risking too much in anyhow, or do you really believed in it and whatever it takes?
Whatever it takes. I never felt it. It was kind of, I had this drive, and I still have that drive to build company and to build Safety Wing. So I never really had time to focus on kind of my own personal safety. I should mention though that I lived in Norway, where we have a system to kind of, if everything went wrong, there is a system. I would probably never have used it, but at least I knew that existed.
There is a safety net.
Yeah, there is a safety net, right? There is a safety net. And
it's open for entrepreneurs, because at least in my country, you have a safety net if you are an employee. When you become entrepreneur, it gets hard to get that safety net. In Norway, the things work differently?
No, it's also, in Norway, it's also harder for entrepreneurs. We did something, we hired ourselves. We hired ourselves in Safety Wing, and so we had access to this safety net basically from the beginning, even though that was not an incentive at all. That was just the way we structured it. But it is not. It's the same as in Portugal. Then it's not as accessible for entrepreneurs as for full-time employees. And this is also kind of something we try to tackle in Safety Wing. This is kind of to bridge that gap and to build a global social safety net is kind of our core, where we want to go.
What could the government do? Imagine that you are advising in 10 years a Norwegian government, and they are willing to help entrepreneurs to thrive and to help people to lose the fear of going entrepreneurial, because there is a fear, and it's well funded because you are risking a lot like you did. What 5 or what top advices would you give to a government trying to push entrepreneurs so they can lose the fear of risking everything? Basically, creating that safety net that we were talking about that employees have, but entrepreneurs never have.
It's a very good question, and it's also always a cost benefit, right? So the easy answer is to say just throw a lot of money on it, and then it will like give them access to everything, and then the problem is solved. But it's not as easy as that, right? You need to kind of do a cost benefit. But some easy things you can do. And that has been done in some countries already. You can apply or make a voluntary system where you do pay something in addition to what you always is provided for by the state, but then you get access to this full range of benefit. That's one thing to do. And when I say full range of benefit, I mean health, I mean dental, I mean maternity, and other softer things as pension and disability. I think that basically sums up a good safety net. If you have those in place, then you have kind of a functioning safety net.
You touch a very good point, meaning the maternity part. The entrepreneurial world, we see much more men than women. Do you think that's because there is no safety net for maternity specific? So, at least in Portugal, if you have your own business, if you get pregnant, or even if you are a freelancer, you have to stop to work, or you should stop to work, even for your health. And there is no safety net there. Should the governments try to push a little bit more and try to protect at least that, because it's very unequal. It's not fair at all.
Yes.
And I think that's one of the reasons we see more men than women in being entrepreneurs, because it's risky for women as well.
I think so too, and I think the short answer is yes. To find a solution on that one is something that could definitely help bridging that gap. Basically, I think that's one of the solutions that could work. Yeah.
Was there any moment at Safety Wing where you wake up and said, "Wow, this was a huge mistake"?
Safety Wing? No, never.
Never? Wow.
Never, not once.
So it grew very fast, very soon?
No. So we did this program called Y Combinator last winter, and then we were trying to launch a lot, and we kind of we're launching next month. No, we're launching next month. No, but then eventually kind of the end of Y Combinator came, and we finally got to launch. It was mid-February last year, and the website, we had so many bugs that it was almost impossible to buy insurance at that time. But we knew we could fix them, right? But the purchases we got was basically people we onboarded 100% ourselves. But then we started to fix those problems, and we had some traffic to the website, so we did see some purchases in the beginning. But not enough. Like we kind of wanted more. Everybody wants more, right? But then it's kind of been this gradual increase month by month in number of customers that have always kind of relaxed, at least me, and I think everyone on the team. And now we're growing super fast. So no, I never had that moment where I kind of regretted it. And what we have done is only kind of a first part of what we want to build. So now we're going to launch more products and do more things, and eventually kind of do what we set out to do. This is only kind of a small first step for us.
Yes, exactly. I know you only have one product and you are thinking about developing more. How have you funded that first product, and what do you think it was the tipping point? So you mentioned that you were growing steadily and suddenly there was a spike. What do you think it was the change that led to that spike? Can you correlate it with anything?
No. So we have some ways of growing that kind of works exponentially. So our biggest source of growth is word of mouth. So when we bring in a customer, that probably and will most likely result in more customers, right? And when we grow that way, that's kind of has this exponential effect to it. And since that's our biggest source of growth and have been since the beginning, then I think what we see now is just a natural effect of us trying to, or successfully reaching out to more people, basically.
One of the strategies you use, and I'm very fan of that strategy, is in the last month, and we spoke about this before, you started to create very good quality content. And it was a huge spike in quality. I'm following you for 1 year or so I know what you were doing last year. And suddenly I saw some amazing articles being written by you guys. What have you changed?
Since the beginning, we've been extremely careful about content, and this is mostly to my two co-founders, Sarah and Sondre. They really care about this and take this serious. And Sarah in particular, but Sondre is also a really good writer. So what we did was to allow him to, or that he freed up some of his time to start writing content. So a lot of the good content you see is actually written by Sondre, our CEO and my co-founder. So that's something we did. We basically pushed content up to ourselves and started writing ourselves.
I saw your content everywhere, so definitely was a good strategy. All the digital nomads were sharing because they could relate with what you were writing. Was any of the co-founders a digital nomad before?
Yeah, I would say Sarah definitely, and Sondre to some degree, yeah. So
that helps a lot.
Yeah.
What is a digital nomad for you guys? Because there is a lot of discussion about what is a digital nomad, or are we location independent, or there is a lot of names out there. You clearly went for the digital nomad. I call myself a digital nomad because I don't think it's pejorative. I think it's a good name. We work online and we keep moving. What is for you a digital nomad, and how did you manage to feel and create that persona for your marketing team?
It's a very good question, and we spent a lot of time discussing this. I think a digital nomad has kind of some things to them, and one is that they work online. That's everybody works online. That's kind of a must-have to call yourself a digital nomad. And the second one is that they are location independent, so they're not tied to one place in any form, which again makes them travel more, not necessarily travel for the sake of travel, like staying 2 weeks. My perception and understanding is that people spend more 2 to 4 months in a place and then move to a new place, and sometimes even longer. And what kind of then the question is, like, where do they go? And they go to places with a high quality, high standard of living, with low cost. Is kind of the normal places, and that includes it includes Bali, it includes Thailand, it includes several places in South America, Vietnam, and yeah, it includes basically several places, and in Europe even Portugal, right?
Yes, Lisbon. Proudly.
Yeah. Where you're from?
I'm from Lisbon, and it's funny because everybody's speaking about Lisbon. I don't live there for 14 years now. I keep moving from place to place. But now I see everybody speaking about Lisbon. Lisbon is amazing for digital nomads. And I'm a digital nomad, and I never been in Lisbon as a digital nomad.
That's interesting. I told you, I'm even thinking about going there myself for some months.
You should definitely go. Like, the country is amazing for digital nomads. We have everything. We have the best food. We have very good facilities, amazing co-working spaces. You have surf almost everywhere.
Yeah.
But if you want to go to somewhere calm, drink amazing glass of wine, we have Alentejo, we have all the countryside. It's very beautiful. And yeah, Portuguese don't know about it, actually. Most of them don't know what is a digital nomad. They just see a lot of foreigners there, and we can mix it with the tourist people. So right now we are starting to see small projects directed specific for digital nomads, like more co-living, like big houses with pool where they put everyone together, and so create that feeling of community. Slowly, but compared with the potential that Portugal has, we are 10%.
Yeah.
And it's good because we are prepared for tourism. So like Thailand, a little bit, we have the infrastructure for tourism, we have good internet, just missing the awareness because the business opportunities there are huge.
Yeah, they're massive. Yeah, definitely.
And if anyone is hearing me and wants to start a business for digital nomads, please contact me. How do you see the future of this trend? I think we are just starting, right?
It's just starting, and I think kind of we have a word for it now. I'm not sure there will be a word for it in 5 to 10 years. Like internet users, they used to have a name, right? They don't have a name anymore. Everybody's online, but because I think this will be the new way of working, and you can do with it whatever you like to work on the internet and be location independent, and then you can do whatever you choose to do with it. You can travel. You can also just work from home and kind of have a base somewhere. I know many people that prefer that way of living. They will still work online and be location independent, right? They can be anywhere. But of course, many people will take advantage of that way of living and do travel more and do go places. I think so. We're just in the beginning of this trend, and I think many people actually could do it today. They're just not aware of it as a possibility yet.
Yes, definitely. Anyone that can work online in a computer can become a digital nomad.
Yes, as long as in some corporate jobs they do require you to, even if you could be anywhere, they do require you to stay. But I think that's changing fast as well, and that's where the really big boom will come.
Exactly. There is a whole history about they have to be competitive, and if one big company starts to offer remote work for its employees, the competitors, if they don't, they will lose a lot of people, because this is the number one benefit right now, right?
Definitely.
So that's the big story. I'm starting to see that even in Portugal, people HR and CEOs are starting to be aware that they are losing a lot of people for foreign companies because people can work remotely, salaries are better, but that's just because they are not offering it. Like, they think a remote work policy is 1 day a week.
Yeah.
And that's not how it works. Are you fully remote?
100%.
Nice. And where is everybody? Do you know?
Yeah, I do know. I actually checked it just before this podcast because I thought this might be a question. So we have 3 people in the US, 2 people in Canada, 2 in Norway, 1 in Finland, 1 in the Czech Republic, 1 on Sicily in Italy. Now I can't remember the rest. Yeah, 1 in Austria or Serbia.
1 in Bali?
1 in Bali right now, yeah. so and this is on the core team, and then we're 14 people on the core team, and then we have kind of a wider range of people that work for us to some degree, and some of them are kind of fully nomads. They're in Bali, Thailand, Colombia, etc., and some of them just work from home. So we have a wide range of people, but 100% remote. Yeah.
How do you manage the communication? That's one of the big challenges. I think there is at least 2 big challenges. One of them is communication.
Yeah.
How do you manage the communication? Are you betting in synchronous or asynchronous communication?
Synchronous, and that's where we kind of different from many other remote companies. So we value synchronous communication. So that means that we have kind of office hours where we expect everyone to be online. Not every day, but some days.
To overlap.
To overlap, yeah. And when we started, and the reason for this is kind of funny. It's kind of not by choice per se, but we had one, when we started out, we had one designer, and he that was a must-have for him. He needed time with everyone. So then we set up this time slots every day where everybody was going to be available. And at the time it was me, Sondre, Sarah, my 2 co-founders, and this guy, so the 4 of us. He was based in New York time, and Sarah is as well. She lives in New York, so that became kind of our main time zone, and that works fine. Interestingly, for both Europeans, it's like from 3:00. When you start working, and also for people on the West Coast, then they start at like 5:00. You of course work outside of these core hours, but that's kind of our basis. So from, let's say, from 5 to 7 Norwegian times, Central European time every day, we have these core hours basically. So we have at least 2 hours with overlap for everyone every day, and then we use for tools. We use Slack, obviously. We use a video tool called Sokoko, and that's really nice. It's like you can imagine this virtual office space where you log in and you have your own avatar in a room. So we have kind of rooms where people kind of sit and work. Whenever they work, they go into this room and they work from there, and they can see who else is there. And
like an online co-working space?
Yeah, it's like an online co-working space. And then you can kind of, if you want to talk with someone, you can kind of knock their door and they can accept you in, and then your face appears and then you start talking to them. And that's been kind of an invention for us. It works really great. And we use Notion for kind of more procedures, manuals, things that don't change too much, but people can go and kind of read up on how they do vacation and how our tech stack works, etc. on Notion.
Nice. The second big fear is culture.
Yeah.
If I go remote, will I be able to maintain the culture in my company? What are you doing regarding your culture? How do you maintain the culture, but actually you build the culture around Safety Wing and keep everyone together, focusing the same goal?
Yeah, that's also a good question. I think we've get something for free when we value asynchronous work as much as we do. And we also do other things. So we do meetups every quarter. So everyone from the company meet up physically for a week or two, various places in the world. Last time we went to San Francisco. Next time is actually Norway, and then we're going to Mexico after that. That's kind of to that's a cultural thing, right? But what we've done as well is from the beginning we have been very open about our culture, what we want our culture to be, at least. And that was one of the first tasks actually me and Sondre did together, because we had a lot of time when they were building the platform, because we're not technical, right? So we made this culture document, and that's still alive today. Even at that time we were 4 people. Now we're maybe 25. The kind to some degree are tied into Safety Wing. So it's also something we've been actually thinking about since the beginning, and it's working. It's working really nice, I would say.
Do you have any advice for someone who's going remote right now? Imagine a company of 10 persons. They are starting. They think remote work is the way because they want to hire the best people in the world. Do you have any advice to make it work from the beginning, or the first thing that they should focus before going remote?
Yeah, I think so. First of all, if you start the company remote, it's much easier than to start physically and then kind of expanding remote. I think you will get a lot of things for free, because things you kind of learn along the way, and you will find a way that works for you. So my advice is, if you start a company, start it remote. Don't start it physically and then kind of accept remote or something like that. Start it remote. That's the first thing. Then everything comes more or less naturally. There are things you have to kind of be cautious about, and that is to communication. So people speak to each other, I think has a value, is a value in itself, and try and make sure that everyone speaks to each other, because you can also that in kind of corporate environment, you can kind of get these fractions of people in the company that never kind of interacts with each other and don't understand each other. So make sure there are systems where everyone can speak to each other. That could be kind of a weekly stand-up where everybody says what they're working on. That's something we started very early and still do today, and that's a big plus. And yeah, do make sure that everyone speaks to each other on the communication part. We do 2 sessions every week where everybody comes in. So we do one stand-up on Mondays, and then we kind of have a meeting on Thursdays where we do various things. It could be kind of go through our culture, like review our culture document, or it could be to fix something where we kind of go into groups and then everybody try and solve a problem, basically. But
that's super cool.
So no, I would say start remote is probably my best advice for how to make sure that remote works. Don't start from the beginning.
That's very good advice. What exactly are you now offering in Safety Wing? What is your core product right now?
Yeah, so our product right now is a travel medical insurance. It's tailored for digital nomads. It starts at $37 a month. That's for people younger than 40, not going to the US. It can be bought by almost anyone in the world, and it works almost anywhere in the world. So that's our current offering. Yeah.
What about the future? I know you have big plans for the future, and I think I'm almost as excited as you about what you are doing. What are your big plans for the future?
Well, if you go some years in, we want to build kind of a full range global social safety net. So that is what we discussed earlier. It's a suite of products that consist of full health coverage, disability coverage, pensions, maternity to some degree, dental, and I think maybe I have it there. Might have forgotten something, but and then the way we will do it is to kind of launch product by product, and then eventually merge kind of the packages into one new product, which will be kind of a subscription-based full access to a safety net.
You are very focused on digital nomads, right?
Yes.
But as you are right now, at least, what we are seeing is that people become digital nomads and they live this life for 5 years, let's say. Are you preparing also for being offering these products for try to increase the lifespan of the product and the client? Because I can give you my example. I plan to stop being a digital nomad in 3, 4, 5 years, whatever. but I will keep traveling. I want to live in the best places, so I'm kind of scouting right now. And in the future, I want to live, imagine, 6 months in Bali, 6 months in some other country. Would you still try to then focus in this group afterwards, because you are offering a big safety net? But then if I go back to my country, or if I stay more time in one place, will it be still worth it for me?
Yes, we do have a plan for that, and that is actually our next product coming up in October. So our next product will be a health insurance, not a travel medical insurance. It can kind of function as your primary insurance, right? It will cover long-term sickness. It will basically cover anything. If you just want to go to the doctor, you will be covered. And that's also a product. It will work globally, so you can travel with it wherever, with the exception of United States. Then you have to pay a little bit more. But it will also cover you in your home country, right? So I could use it in Norway and get access to the private clinics using this insurance. So it will be even more location independent than our current offering, if you understand what I'm saying.
So you are really preparing for the future, because one of the struggles from digital nomads is that they don't belong to any country right now. Meaning, one of the rules to be, for example, to pay the taxes in one country is that you have to stay there for 6 months. And we don't stay anywhere for 6 months. We keep moving. So you are preparing to a world where this is acceptable. It's acceptable to be moving all the time and not having our health insurance in one country.
Yes.
Because we keep moving.
Yes, we are.
That's awesome.
And we're also, on that product, we're kind of expanding our market a little bit by also building a business platform for remote companies. So remote companies could sign up and kind of add their employees, regardless of where they are in the world, to a platform and basically cover them for health, dental, and to some degree maternity as well.
Nice. Is there any other digital nomad problems that you would like to fix that may not be in your plans right now, but you see, I really like to fix this?
Yeah, so what I would like to do also well, there are many problems, but not everyone is for us to fix, right? Should be other companies fixing problems as well, and there are other companies fixing problems. So we do know a little bit of what kind of the major pain points for digital nomads are, and I would say if you're going to start a company for digital nomads, start there. Like, start to look at what's the biggest pain points are, and try to come up with solutions for it.
I have one.
Yeah.
In case of there's any company listening. There is no way to legally pay taxes anywhere. So you have to be legal somewhere and pay taxes there, because, again, the rules for paying taxes in one country for have the fiscal residency means that you have to stay at least for 6 months there. And yeah, most of us don't stay for 6 months anywhere. And I would love to see that being fixed by somehow. I don't know. Probably it has to be some government offering it. Like, I think Estonia is going in that direction, but
they are.
Because they're in the European Union, they are not still there yet, because they have to follow some rules, and that 6 months rule is one of the ones they can't break. So you can open a company, you can have the residency, but you can't pay your taxes there as individual as long if you don't live there. Yeah, please, someone fix this.
No, that's a big one, and that's a really hard problem to fix. I'm not sure a government is the best one to fix it, though. So the reason for this kind of 6-month rule, especially in more developed countries, is that they have tax treaties with other countries, and sometimes it's like many countries in one of these tax agreements, basically, and to change that, and then they would have to. Basically, it's not one country that can do it. You need several countries to do it. So I think maybe a company is better suited to solve that problem. And I can at least think of many ways to at least start tackling the problem.
Please.
We will probably not do it but probably not in Safety Wing. But please do it.
I think that, to be honest, that's the biggest pain of digital nomads right now. There is the visa issue, but the visa, I see some countries trying to fix it. And for example, the Prime Minister from Indonesia just informed everyone publicly that you can work in Indonesia as a digital nomad as long as you don't work for Indonesian companies and you don't have any interference in the local community. So if you come and you want to do business, there is other proper visas for that. Either way, you can come here and work for your own company back overseas with the tourist visa. So that's an improvement. Thailand is kind of going the other way around. But yes, I think governments and the visas are the second biggest pain. We keep traveling, we keep struggling for visas. We are kind of always illegal because we travel in tourist visas most of the time, or most of us do. I do, for sure. And I think that's the second problem, but that's for governments. But the first one, if there is a company able to fix it,
That's for governments.
Yeah, it's like a millionaire business. We are all struggling.
Yeah. No, but I also think the second problem is a big one. But I also think that could be solved by companies. You have like this one company I met that we went to this conference this weekend running remote, and you had this company called Igloo. They were tackling this problem in Thailand. Very smoothly. Like they literally hired them and then hired them technically and then invoiced the employer of the person coming, basically. And that's one way to solve it. There are many hacks around this. So I think also companies can solve this problem.
That's a good point. But yeah, the issue is then we keep moving. That works if you stay in Thailand for 6 months.
That's true. That's a good point.
If you keep moving, then it gets hard because there's other companies. We also had in the conference. I've totally forgot the name of them, but they are. If you want to hire remote employees and hire them full time, they give you all the legal parts. So they basically they invoiced you and they pay the client. Yeah. So there is more companies doing that. But the issue is that if you keep moving, it's hard to keep up with different regulamentations.
It is harder, definitely. But I think it's solvable. And I as you hear, I tend to put more trust in kind of companies solving these kind of problems than government.
I'm all in for companies. One of the talks we also listened there was that if a lot of people ask help for solving a problem like open source, things happen faster. And we had the example from Hyperloop. That's what they did. They had a lot of engineers coding after hours, so they all had a full-time job and they were coding after hours and they would keep developing the product, and suddenly they built amazing things. So crowdsourcing is kind of the solution also. If you put enough people together working in some problem and thinking just about the problem, not about money, amazing things can happen.
Definitely.
Talking about money, there's a big discussion right now in the startup world if you should have VC money or not. And specifically, what companies should have VC money? You are VC funded, right?
Yeah.
Why you opted to go that way? And what is your opinion about what companies should have VC money, what companies should not have VC money?
It's a very good question. I don't think there's a general rule. Might be a rule of thumb, though. So for us, just to answer that, it was kind of without funding, we couldn't have scaled as fast as we're doing now, and we need to scale fast to build what we want. It's a very ambitious product and project, and for us to succeed faster than we needed outside capital. It's also kind of we're going directly to customers, and there you kind of in the beginning you start with 2 customers, right, and then you have 4, and then you have 8, and the time goes by without money. So in our business model as well, it made a lot of sense. It was so obvious to us that we wanted to do that it was never really a big discussion. Now it's a discussion, right? Now it's a discussion if we really need to do another round, if we want to do another round. That's a discussion. But before it was not a discussion.
Yeah, definitely. But there's a lot of people trying to get VC money, and some of them are not scalable, or they can keep growing, like we're growing in the beginning, but they get VC money because VCs, when they invest in something, they expect exponential growth and an exit. Mm-hmm. That's where they make money, right?
Yeah.
So do you agree that if a company is not planning to, or if they see that the growth of them will not be exponential, meaning with a small amount of money, they can grow a lot? Do you think everyone should go for VC money, or is there anyone that you say, no, guys, this business or this kind of business are not great because you will take more time to grow, and that's okay, but just that's not what investors are expecting, right?
Yeah. I would say if you run, let's say, an agency or a company that don't scale, or it only scales as a result of, for example, number of employees, number of hours billed, for example, then it's both hard to raise VC money, and I'm not sure if it's advisable. I'm not sure, though. There's always these outliers where it makes a lot of sense. That's why it's so hard to say in general as a general rule of thumb. But That's at least definitely a harder job to do, to convince an investor to give you money in with that business model. There are other financing alternatives for those business models. Debt, for example, is one where debt makes more sense because the income is more stable. You can kind of affect it more yourself. So it's kind of a hard topic, but I would say if you're planning to build something really big and hard and you don't have the money yourself, and it's a scalable product, then I would say raising money makes sense.
You are a fully remote company. Did you feel in any time that was a trouble when trying to gather money from VCs?
No.
No? Oh, that's interesting, because the feedback we got from a lot of companies was exactly the opposite.
Yeah, no, I think if you have your metrics right, if your metrics make sense, if your growth makes sense, if your team makes sense, if your vision makes sense, then if you're remote, it's not even a question they're going to ask.
Wow.
They, like, where are you based? Yeah, we're based in San Francisco, and we have something in Oslo, and we have people all over. That's an answer that makes sense to them. Of course, it might be a little bit easier for us since we're kind of building products for remote companies and for remote people and for digital nomads. It makes a lot of sense that we are. So also for investors, right? We're in our own market.
That's true. Yes,
yeah.
That's a good benefit you have, because you are basically living the life of the people you are making products for.
Yeah, but think about it. If I was an investor and a company came to me with all the metrics made sense, the vision made sense, the team was strong, the founders knew each other, like all of this was in place. Why shouldn't I fund them because they were different places? It makes no sense to me, and I think more and more people are even, like, I would say, to some degree, the money I give them will probably last longer because they give this huge benefit to the people they hire. They can pay lower salaries. So no, it makes no sense to for me at least. If I was an investor, I wouldn't count that as negative, only as a positive. And I think more and more people are realizing this.
I think so, but I think there's still a lot of people trying to kick back. Meaning, we saw some stories at Running Remote where people were trying to get investments, but as soon as they started to say, "Oh, our team is remote," some investors just, sorry, no. But yes, now we have the other side of the coin, meaning there is investors just focusing in remote companies because they see the huge benefits that they are bringing. I want to speak a little bit about the future. And not only about Safety Wing, but about the future of the world, maybe digital trends, etc. What makes you wake up excited about the future? Is that something that you are looking into and you said, I love this, I can't wait for the future when we'll have this?
Yes. And in general, though, like, the world is moving faster than ever. There is more things happening to the world today than probably any time in earlier in history, and it probably will be for the next 50, 60, 70 years in the information age we kind of live in, where everything is kind of turned upside down. Business models that have been there for hundreds of years are suddenly not existing anymore. Always new innovations that kind of completely turns the world upside down, or not the world, but kind of big chunks of what we conceive as truths are not longer truth. So I think that to be a part of that this age is extremely interesting, and alone enough, and to have a company and to build a company kind of tackling the problems that emerges with these trends is even more interesting, I would say.
Nice. Things are changing really fast, as you mentioned, and digital trends are one trend that before took 5, 10, 15 years to grow. Now it's 1 year, and sometimes it's gone in 1 year. We have an example, for example, Pokemon game grows so fast and it fell so fast.
Yeah.
Are you afraid that Digital Nomad will be the same, that this tendency will just grow and go down?
No, because it's not a Pokemon game. It's a way to live, and when people get used to a way of living, they normally don't want to change it that fast. It's something that sticks forever, and especially when that way of living makes completely sense for many people. Not for everyone, but for many people, it makes completely sense. Why should it stop? I think the only reason why it could kind of be less people could do it is governments. Like they stop accepting foreigners or stop accepting people doing business with each other. Like those kind of and there are some dangerous things on the horizon there. But I don't think kind of the human drive to do and live that life will decrease in the future.
I think government that accepts digital nomads there is a lot of financial upside. Meaning, usually we work for companies that pay well, especially compared with the countries where we are. I think the average salary here in Indonesia is like $300 or $400 if you are very good. And if a foreign comes here and is here for 2 months or 3 months or 4 months, they are spending money, they are spending more money than the local, probably than 5 locals together. So there's definitely a upside, and I can't understand why any government would not build something specifically for this market. The only excuse I have is that they are really slow in doing that, right? What should governments do to make it fast?
Yeah, no, I completely agree that that's the rational thing to do, but unfortunately governments are not always rational, as we've seen many examples of the last 5-6 years and before. Like history is full of governments that does not act in a rational way. What governments should do is to accept. I wouldn't say increase immigration. That's too broad. But increase people, like kind of labor immigration or people coming to work in a country. I hardly see any problems with kind of increasing that, with the exception of people taking advantage of such a system that's one thing. The other thing is to have tax incentives for entrepreneurs. For example, accepting stock options and not tax stock options is something that will really benefit at least startups. And since startups are kind of in the front seat of these new kind of trends with remote companies and digital nomads, that will also help that. So I do believe that the government that will win is the government that makes it as easy as possible to start a company there. And the race is on. You see governments, countries all over the world competing for this now. Like Estonia is a good example.
So much money that Estonia is making just because...
Singapore is another example.
Yes.
And the United States have kind of always been perceived as the best place to start a company, which is why many people do it. And they're also in the race, right? It's not hard to start a company in the United States. Anyone can do it from anywhere. So they're also in the race, and there's many countries seeing this and doing something about it. And with that also comes the other things like tax, labor, etc., etc.
So there is hope for the future.
Oh no, I'm definitely hopeful for the future.
I can totally
very optimistic.
We are wrapping up because we do have to work. Where can people find more about you, Safety Wing, and do you have any message for everyone?
Yeah, they can obviously go to our website, safetywing.com. They can check out our, we mentioned content, so they can check out our Medium account, which is also under Safety Wing. And they can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter.
Nice. That's a wrap for me. Do you have anything else to add?
No, this was interesting. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much for coming, and everyone out there. Check the show notes. I'll leave there a lot of details, links, and things we talked about. And thank you for listening. Bye-bye. And that's a wrap. If you enjoyed this conversation, go to Hans' Twitter and tell him you enjoyed this interview. I'm sure we can start a conversation about the digital nomad movement there, so help me out here. If you are in Portugal, I am organizing a conference in Lisbon on the 26th and 27th of October about remote work, of course, where else? Check remote/shift.com, remote/shift.com. Come and join us. See you on the next episode. Bye-bye.